Hello again, and welcome to the Ectohead channel. Firstly, I'd like to give due credit to Danny Jones and the podcast that he does for having on his program Delia Burgoyne. And in this particular episode, Delia Burgoyne talks about her autistic daughter and this emerging belief that these kids are in fact telepathic. And tests are ongoing, and there's a series of programs on YouTube which I do very much suggest that you go and listen to, called the telepathy tapes. Whilst I was listening to the podcast, right at the very end, Delia Burgoyne said something which brought back a whole slew of memories that I hadn't thought about for many years. And they're to do with my own personal experiences as a child. Now, I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but we had a difficult childhood. Yeah, it's not something I really want to talk about, but it may be at some point important. And so I wanted to just sort of nod at it, that unfortunate part of my history. So let's have a listen to what Dahlia has to say about her own abilities here.
Yeah, I remember when I first opened. So we call it opening. It's kind of like with telepathy, like it's when the kids can spell, we call that opening too. When I first opened with the blindfolds and stuff, I remember I had an overload of all these different ways to see. And so I was able to zoom in and zoom out. I was able to see in the dark pretty like as if there was a light on. And I remember thinking this is too much. And by me thinking that it got to the point where it was like consistent. And I remember thinking, I'll just go back to it. But I remember the dark, though, that scared me. Yeah, I remember when I first opened. So we call it opening. It's kind of like with telepathy, like it's when the kids can spell, we call that opening too. When I first opened with the blindfolds and stuff, I remember I had an overload of all these different ways to see. And so I was able to zoom in and zoom out. I was able to see in the dark pretty like.
So she mentioned something there, which kind of clicked. Something in here. She said, I was always able to zoom in and zoom out. Now, where do you start, really? So I'll just start with the memories as they are, because they're all pretty fractured anyway. And there's no kind of, it started like this. Oh, I remember the first time. No, it's none of that bollocks, frankly. So, I'm a child. I'm in bed at night and I share a bedroom with my brother. And I've always been afraid of the dark. As far as I can remember anyway. As far back as I can remember, I've always been afraid of the dark. So we used to sleep with the lights on. Or at least not off with the lights on. And that was just quite normal for me. And so this thing used to happen. I don't know if I used to make this thing happen. I didn't feel like it. But I would be trying to nod off to sleep. And my attention would be drawn to the corner of the room by the wall and the ceiling. usually in a corner area. And I would find myself somehow right up there in the corner of the room, just close, like with my face up against the wall. Excuse me. And I could perceive details. Like I could look at details. Look around up there. But I'm not going to sit here and embellish this and tell you I could turn around and I could look at myself in the bed. I don't have any memory of turning around and seeing myself in the bed. I mean, if one turns up at some point, I'll be sure to let you know. But I'm 60 years old now, and there's nothing there. But there's something behind this happening. I hate calling it ability because it kind of, I've got an ability. It's kind of conceited. It's kind of a bit. I never found anything fun in any of this stuff. There was always like a price to pay somewhere, and usually it was internalized. It was fear. And so to get back, there was this thing that is behind whatever it is that I could do. And I have this memory of looking at something which terrified me. I mean, scared out of your skin, screaming, terrifying. And I don't know what it is, and I don't want to know. When I was in my teens, long after all of this stuff, I made a conscious decision to push all of this weirdness into the background, to literally ignore it. And it worked. So there's this thing that I've seen which has terrified me. And whenever I used to go up into the corner of the room, that thing would be kind of close, present. And I kind of got to a stage where I would see animal heads, giraffes, foxes, cats, dogs, horses. And I didn't know why. It was a total mystery to me. But they would all be up there with me. And I would just nod off. Now, as I got a bit older, in my very early teens, 10-ish, something like that, I found another thing that I could do. And my brain used to race all the time, and I was still afraid of the dark. I used to sleep with the lights on, and so I was caught between this needing to go to sleep, tired, and having the lights on because I was not happy being in the dark. And so I happened upon this thing to help me sleep, which I used to call tipping back. So I'd be laying in bed, and I found that I could induce a kind of. This I could induce. I could make this happen because I could come in and out of this. And I found that out when I was doing it, really enjoying it, and my brother said something, and I came right out, and that happened a few times. So it was something that I don't know, switch on and off. And I would lay in bed, and I would somehow induce a tipping back. Of course, I mean, it's clues in the name. So if I can use this, so it wasn't if my hand represents me laying in bed, and my fingers, tips of my fingers are my head, if you like, on the pillow. It wasn't that. It wasn't just straight down like that. It was this. It was, if I can get it straight, it was that. So if you're laying there and you feel it, it was like sliding down a slide. Yeah, there you go. Like a child's slide. If you were going in upside down, head first, if you're like on your back, and you slid down there, that's what it was like. But I could do that over and over again. Now, I don't know if this is something everyone can do. I have no idea. But this is something that I used to be able to do, and I would do it, and it would make me feel really happy, like almost ecstatic. Bizarrely, that's something that Dalia Burgoyne says about her autistic, apparently telepathic child, that when she's doing some things, in order to do them, she goes into a form of ecstasy. She's really happy. And that brings us tangentially to the stories of religious ecstasies, and how various individuals who are deeply religious went into these, well, as I say, ecstasies, and they would levitate sometimes and do all kinds of weird stuff would happen. And Padre Pio, the guy with the stigmata, all these kind of physical marks and abilities, which are identified as things of deep devotion and ecstasy. And I don't know if it's important, but I grew up in a Roman Catholic family. Make of that what you will. So I could do this other thing. Now, there are other small little bits and pieces that I can mention, but maybe for another video, because I don't want to muddy the waters too much. So I used to be up there with the giraffes. Just absurd. So I used to be up there with the giraffes, the dogs, and the horses and cats and things, in the corner of the room while I was laying in bed. And this thing used to be present, close by, I don't know. And that was my experience, pretty much. I would either fall asleep. But there was one night in particular where I screamed out. And I remember being in the corner of the room, up by the ceiling, and this, whatever it is, how can I explain it? It just got close, I suppose, and I could feel the terror, or maybe I saw something. Whatever it is, it's way back there. And I screamed out. And that was very unusual because, as I said, we had a very difficult childhood.